am again way behind everything. Oh, man, every time I say I'm going to go live, life hits me. And then when I was going to go live, I don't even know. I'm just going to keep talking because I know it's going to take a while for people to even know that I'm live. But um, when I was planning on going live last time, my computer I was going to use no longer worked. So I've got a brand new setup. If for some reason you can't hear me, please let me know. So I'm on a lunch break right now from work. So if my boss, Nick, I promise I'm working. I'm on my lunch. And hey, butterfly kisses. But I got this cool new setup now, and I actually kind of don't mind going, hey, Punkette, going live during lunch because you know what? There's not a lot of other people live. Because what happens to me is I get home at night and I'm like, Punkette, I missed you guys. I get home at night and I'm like, man, there's like a million people live and I want to watch them. Because I really have stayed out of a lot of the drama. Like I just can't get myself to engage. And I don't know if you guys like I get it, like drama sells, right? Like there's a really big market for that, but I just it feels like and if that's people's cup of tea, have at it. But I feel like I would be so like it feels such a stress, like the stress of just constant like, oh man, it's just such drama. But the people that do it and I mean they do it well. um and so no, no shame on them. But guys, I've been watching now that I got my new setup. I'm not even kidding. Last time I came on, oh, if you hear something, it's just my computer in the background, my work computer. So because I am still like keeping track of it even on my lunch. um I've been watching some yeah, if you're just coming in, that night that I said I was gonna go live, my computer literally broke. So, um, somehow the computer that I paid for my daughter, she turned around and sold to me. So, I'm pretty sure she's got a career in sales because I just now realized I can't even believe I bought something I paid for. Anyways, alright, so, I have been watching, guys, I have to talk to you. I've been watching some mad documentaries lately. I don't even know if you call it. Hey, Luann, I don't even know if you call them, I guess you'd call them documentaries. I want to talk about a few things. Yeah, she did, Punkette. Dude, I just am sitting here looking out my window talking to you guys, and I'm like, wait a minute. I bought a computer that I paid for. Like, wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. Also, hey, Butterfly Kisses. Well, I got my new setup now. So, also, I'm going to be traveling a lot this summer with her travel team. So, I'm probably going to be living on a street after how much it's costing me. But, like, I'm hoping to meet up with some of you because we're going to be traveling a lot. And, people ask me like, why would you pay that much? Like, so her dream is to play softball at college, and everybody has an opinion, and it is a very expensive. But at the end of the day, like, if this is her dream, we've always told her, if this is our kids, if this is your dream and you're willing to work hard, then we will do what we can to make it happen. Because I never want her to get to a point in her life where she goes, man, I wonder what would have happened if so and so, if I got to do that. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that, but I think when we're parents, anybody else who might be parents in here, or even whatever, owners of an animal, like we do what we've got to do to make sure that our kids are taken care of. Um, and so that's my spiel. That I say all that to say that I will be doing some traveling with her, so it'd be cool. I think we're going to like Colorado, Tennessee, Georgia. Exactly, Punkette. Hey, Wolfie. Oh, I've missed you. It like it pays off a lot. And look, if she I don't necessarily love it, the idea of this new how we're paying people to play at college. But look, if she walks on with a full scholarship and gets NIL money, um, I'm not complaining. She wants to be an athletic trainer. So what better, I know, Wolfie. Well, I was gonna go live a few weeks ago and I was so pumped. And then my computer broke. So we were just talking about it. I literally bought a computer off my daughter that I originally paid for. So I guess if sports don't work out, sales is really going to be her thing. So I want to talk documentaries, guys. I have so many cases. Well, one, let's get this out of the way. We know that Casey Anthony now has a TikTok. So last night I said basically if we put Casey Anthony and Gypsy Rose together, it's like um Freddie and Jason. That's all I can think about. But you know what? Like we're not going to stop her from having a TikTok or TikTok. Oh my gosh. Somebody please send her TikToks now. We're not going to stop her from having a TikTok. No doubt she knows she's going to make bank out of it. Anybody who signs her up to be their legal advocate, I got to tell you, she got, whether you believe it or not, I mean, she knows, let's just say she knows how to manipulate. Um, she did, research a ton for whatever when she lived with her. I mean, come on, is this not the height of manipulation? You somehow managed to go to court, win a case that your child is dead, allegedly didn't do it, and managed to then shack up with the private investigator for the defense where you now work for him. I mean, that is like my daughter selling me a computer that I bought in the first place. Like, it's insane. But whatever. She wants a Tic Tac. I'm going to say that now. Oh man, now I just want to send her like massive amounts of Tic Tacs. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. But at the end of the day, to each their own. It's crazy. But there are a couple documentaries I want to talk about because I thought they were so wild, and I just want to get your guys' opinion. The Gabby Petito, most of us, I'm assuming a lot of us watched it. If you didn't, what were your thoughts on that? I know, Ava, right? Like, it's it's crazy. It's wrong. I have my opinions, but I'm willing, to always hear other people's side of, her not being guilty. At the end of the day, she was acquitted. Um, but I do fear her manipulation level. And like I said, I do think there was probably a little bit of her that thought, man, Gypsy is making bank. Now, if she would have come out to me and said, I'm going to be a child advocate, oh, I would have had issues. Oh, I 100%. I mean, I think she took her daughter's life, and it's so hard because it's one of those ones I don't think we're ever going to get true justice on, and it stinks. So the Gabby Petito documentary was eye-opening. The things I didn't know. So that picture they showed of Gabby with a black eye, I don't so what I'm wondering, like when the officer stopped her, remember we saw that so badly botched. Um that in how do you say it, Moab, when they literally botched the entire, like she'd probably, and I mean law enforcement has said this, probably would have be alive if this was handled correctly. um they did say there was something on her eye, but what I wondered is because they do shoot, she does take a picture somewhere of her eye being pretty black, and I know it's the same outfit she had on that day, but I'm wondering, Punkat, I kind of get where you're going. I want to hear your opinion. I'm wondering if, because of what I didn't realize is that night they ended up getting back together, even though the police said to stay separate. Um, and Punkat, I think that too. I think that he might have hurt her that night. I mean, look, we know it's not uncommon for women or whatever to get back with their abusers, right? Her anxiety, we saw it in her anxiety was off the chart when she thought of being separated. But an abuser, that's what they want to do, right? They want to trap you so much that you feel like you can't function without them. Um, what I didn't know before is her conversations with her ex. And then it came together for me when that August 27th, we know they were at that restaurant. She texts Brian and said, "I feel sick. The chicken smelled bad." I do believe, yes, Punkette, you are correct. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I do believe maybe she wasn't entirely sick in that bathroom. She might have been. I think that might have been when she texts, because I believe she texted um, Jackson. I think that's when she sent him a message or tried to call him, was when she was in the bathroom, because I think she was getting ready to leave him. So we know that, and then we find out that at 4, so their last scene at 2:20 or something like that in the grocery store. That was the last sighting of her. We know they do end up making it to wherever, Spread Creek, but I can't figure out if that's where she actually died, like in the van then. But I know that like 8:32 was the last time there was activity on on her computer as far as editing. And they say that like they knew it was her because, well, Brian couldn't edit and just the way the pattern was when she was editing before. And then by like 9 o'clock the next day, I think it was 9 or something, they believe she died between that time period. I think because we know Brian had access to her phone because he texted her mom. And we know that the 28th she was deceased because he went up by himself and was taking pictures of bones and stuff. I think that in that time period, that 12-hour span, that he found her phone or told her, I think she said something about leaving because she did text her mom and say, like, "I'm gonna be in the van by myself. I told him I could make more money solo," which I think probably set him off the edge. I think that she probably said, "I think it's not working out." And I think he took her phone, saw that she made a call to Jackson, of which we know Jackson did not um, answer. And I think at that point he flipped out. And the only thing I can't figure out is if he strangled her first and then hit her to go with his story that it was she was injured, or if he hit her first and then strangled her, because it does say she died of asphyxiation caused by strangulation and blunt force trauma. So I mean, I'm not like one of the medical scientists, so my only guess is that he probably hit her before, maybe punched her really hard or hit her with something. Because I'm not sure if like you can see the blunt force trauma after you're already dead. Like I don't know that part. I'm not going to claim to be smart like about that stuff. Um, what blew my mind is I've always had and always been a little defense. I've always been like, well, we don't know the laundry's new. We don't know all that stuff. But I have no doubt now, based on that's what I wondered, Punk at. And I wondered if he beat her so bad that he was like, I got to finish the job. There is no doubt in my mind that Roberta and Christopher Laundrie knew what he did. So we know on August 28th, he takes pictures of his bone. He's bone, or not his bones, like bones. He's up in the wilderness. He comes out. I think it was the 28th or the 29th. He makes a 55-minute phone call to his parents, hangs up with them. They immediately call their attorney, and then he calls them back, or they called him back, one of those things. You are out of your mind if you think that they didn't know. And I don't want to say that. I mean, some people don't have to believe it, but they most definitely knew something. And then for the police, the police, whatever, Northport PD, I will say, if it wasn't for that detective, hey, Mama Bear, if it was not for that detective in Long Island that was relentless in making sure the right thing was done, I don't think that she would have been found nearly as quickly. Because that first what interested me, ladies, gentlemen, if you're here, that's cool, is did you guys notice the tone change between when that officer of Northport, the supervisor of Northport PD, talked to the woman detective as opposed to when he talked to her supervisor? It was insane. It was insane switch of, like, talking down to somebody, and then that woman detective was smart enough to know, and Gabby's parents love this woman detective, by the way. She was smart enough to know that, like, I'm getting nowhere. Puts the supervisor on, and then he agrees to go out and check, of which he says, "Hey, I'm taking the van because this is Gabby's van." And then he walks away and goes, "Oh, yeah, something's wrong." You think? It was maddening. Oh, she was awesome, and she was getting heat for something, and Gabby's parents were like, "I want you to know straight up, like, on that 2020, we love this detective." And I guess the one friend that was friends with both Brian and Gabby was getting a lot of hate, and they also cleared the air on that and was like, "Everybody chill on her. She's awesome." Like, she didn't know Brian was gonna be a complete psychopath. Um, uh, the fact that the Laundries can never I mean, I think it's over. I don't think they're ever gonna be prosecuted for knowing more. There's just no way to prove that they did at this point. Um, Roberta had some sick, twisted relationship with Brian. Like, who tells their kid, "I'm gonna put a file in your," like, I mean, that's wild. It's wild. And I know we can't say we don't know what we'd act like if we haven't been there. I can tell you that if my child murdered his girlfriend, I would he would go to jail. I would love him through it, but he would go to jail. And let's not forget, Roberta turned to be quite a nut job herself when she turned on Gabby when they started living there. Like, that's a twisted relationship. No one was going to have Brian more than Roberta. Like, no one. That was clear. Hey, LFT. Miss you. Glad to be back. Mommy had a sick relationship. But I got to ask you guys, I really do. What's your opinion on Sister? I don't think Cassie knew. I think that Cassie was the unwanted kind of child. I think we do know based on her Instagram that all contact ended with her parents at that point. When Brian went missing, her parents cut her off completely. She knew nothing other than what was given to her by the news. Um, I do not know. Now, Gabby's father says he texted his sister, and asked about him, and she didn't text him back. According to the sister, the first, communication that happened was with Detective Barry. I agree, Punkette. Um, there's also there could be an exclamation. It's possible that Gabby's dad texted the wrong number because I mean, not many of us have like your boyfriend's sister's number, like, or your daughter's boyfriend's sister's number, you know? I do think she knew some. I think she was like, I think she had a feeling something was super shady, is what I think. My only issue with Cassie is because I've tried to support her because I've tried to step back and go, this girl lost everything, right? Like, she was super close to Brian. She, her parents, which as parents, how the heck does one child murder somebody and you ditch your other child? Like, they ditched their grandkids and their children. Now, I don't know if they necessarily ditch it. I think Cassie might have done that. But my issue with Cassie is she is now like a huge advocate of um men being abused. And listen, men can be abused very much so. I want to make it clear. I think Gabby and Brian were toxic from the start together. I think he was horribly abusive and horribly manipulative and played off her anxiety and then got her to a point where she was just hysterical. And that's not on her. Any one of us would be that way, especially if you suffer from any type of anxiety and stuff. But I think that that She claims, but here's the deal. Cassie keeps doing these cryptic messages of saying things like, she said one thing, I told people the abuse my brother endured through the years. So here's my question. Is she talking about Gabby? Now, I'll say two things. Cassie could make her profile private. The fact she doesn't is maddening, girl. Save yourself some mental anguish. Like, I do sympathize with you to a point. I don't sympathize with you that I think you should have immediately known something was odd. And I also don't sympathize with you if you truly are talking about Gabby. Because I do not think that Gabby abused Brian. I think if Gabby abused Brian, like physically badly abused him, he would have killed her long before that. Because no guy is going to sit there and let her beat him up and be like, all right, thanks. So that's what I'm wondering, Punkette. Was she talking about Roberta? I am very curious. But then she calls it domestic, like, so I'm confused. Like, Cassie, if you're riding that train because you can't fully, I think she's not willing to come to terms with what her brother did. But if you're riding that train of domestic violence, you better ride into a different station, because I'm never going to buy that. Like, do I think Gabby might have done, like, might have slapped him or something one time when they were arguing? Maybe. But do I think she was an abuser? No. But I do wonder if she was talking about Roberta, or if she just simply cannot admit the fact that her brother did what he did. I also don't know why she doesn't set it to private. I also wish she would stop going at Gabby's parents, because regardless of how she feels about, so here's kind of how I feel, is what an opportunity that they could both, for something good to come out of a bad situation. Like, I'm not saying that they would have to be best friends, but I do think maybe, hey, maybe Cassie, I think Brian, not, oh my gosh, I think Gabby's parents are reasonable enough that maybe if Cassie said to them, like, I'm really sorry what my brother did. There's nothing to ever replace this. Like, what he did, we don't ever have us to speak again. But I just want you to know my heart breaks. We loved Gabby. Anything like that, I think that they would probably receive that. Maybe, I mean, they wouldn't be best friends or talk, maybe ever again. But I think that would at least bring some peace to both parties. Um, I don't know why she has to keep going at Gabby's parents, other than the fact that I'm probably pretty sure that Brian filled his family with some pretty horrific lies about her family, is all I can think of. Because I think that he moved them to Florida. I don't buy that he moved them to Florida so he could be closer to his sister. I think the other thing is, Brian's parents moved to Florida. So I wonder, so did Brian's parents move to Florida before them, or did they move to Florida because of them? Either way, I think that Brian moved to Florida because he wanted to isolate Gabby from not only her friends, but her family. And I think that, I mean, let's be real, her dad and stepdad could be pretty terrifying. Like, they're Long Island guys. They would have seen through it eventually. I think that they moved to Florida to isolate Gabby, and because Brian's mom wanted them close, wanted him close. Can you imagine how Brian's mom reacted when he said they were going on the road? And also, what I wonder, was Roberta physically abusive to Chris? Because in one of Brian's texts, he writes to Gabby, this is a lot of how it was when I was growing up. She'll get over it. Like, that house, I mean, it's a red flag for trauma. Like, I don't think we could even comprehend some of the crap that went on in that house with those kids growing up. But Brian clearly grew up with absolutely zero accountability. Nothing he did was wrong. For crying out loud, I wouldn't put it over Roberta to blame Cassie for Brian killing Gabby. Like it's that twisted. Is there other type of abuse that could have happened between Roberta and Brian? I'm not. I think it's very possible. I think it's one of the most twisted Norman Bates type relationship that I've seen in the true crime in a long time. And the only two people that truly hold the answer are Brian and Gabby. I do think his parents knew he was going to unalive before he left. It's crazy. It's the craziest story. It's a horrific way to die. I was surprised that they said that she was moved out to where she was. I thought up until I heard that she was actually that's where she was deceased and where it happened was out there where she passed. The only thing that leads me to believe that I mean, I guess she died in the van maybe, but the only thing that was weird about that to me is that they didn't arrest him immediately after collecting evidence from the van, which tells me there might have not been the blood or whatnot. So I don't really know, but I think it's pretty safe to say he found out about her talking to her ex. And I think she was breaking it off. And I mean, that part is standard, right? If I can't have you, no one will. The trip back to Florida for Brian confuses me a little bit. Oh, I'm getting there, Punkette. The other part that confuses me though is he goes back to Florida before, for those few days before to clean out a storage shed. For somebody as controlling and possessive as he is, it really shocked me that he let her stay there. And it also shocks me that if she was going to leave, why she didn't take that time. So I think there's definitely some unanswered questions, whether he was threatening her, if you leave, I'll hurt your family or something. I don't know. So that's one documentary, but Punkette, that is actually what I just finished watching, and I watched it twice, yesterday and today. Oh yeah, for sure, Punkette. I physically felt sick watching that the first time. The second time I was furious with anger. Ruby Frank. So if you can't see what Punkette's saying in chat, like I'm not gonna let that go because like I want to study this more. First off, I feel like 30 years in prison just isn't enough. Like we know that her writings basically said, "I will fight you until the day you die." Like those kids would have been dead any second. To think of that boy so emaciated that the big old burly man that called 911 was basically sobbing on the line is horrific. The hard part is let's take it back before the vlog starts. Oh, Punkette. Before the vlog starts, the way the kids talked was Ruby was not a bad mother. Like they said she was actually a really good mom. Like, do you guys think that's true, or do you think they just don't want to come to terms with it? She really was kind of psychotic the entire. Because from the sounds of it, she really started to change when the vlog started. What's wild to me is that at one point she was making $100,000 a month and more with this vlog. Ava, I think you're right. I think she was decent before the vlog. I think they overlooked some of the red flags with her. The vlog, I think, yes, Punkette. I think the vlog made her obsessed with money. And she has a deep, deep need to be seen and feel important. And I think that she got obsessed with that. But I think it's very safe to say that when she met this Jody Hildebrandt, she went off the chains. I would say with 100% confidence that whole family was brainwashed. I think Sherry is the only one that's completely broken away from it, that mindset completely, because in exactly, Punkat, in some of the things that Chad said, I see still this little boy just wanting his mom's approval, because Chad, and he said it, Chad was her money train. Chad had blonde hair, blue eye. Let's be real, Chad's a good looking boy. He had blonde hair, he had blue eyes, he was super handsome. He was the one she was constantly forcing to act a certain way on the vlog. And I think he just felt never good enough for her. It's kind of like somebody with like borderline or something. Like she either loved him or hate him. So when she was good to him, she was really good to him. But when he didn't do what he needed to do to make her happy, he was nothing to her. And so a lot of times, I think he still wants her approval. I think he knows that it's not healthy, and what she did is, like, can't be undone, and that he never wants anything to do with her, but I still think he does long for her approval. Dad is frustrating to me because I know Dad was brainwashed. I know he was. But it is kind of maddening that he was so brainwashed, 100% Punkette, that he literally turned around and walked out on his family because she said, "We need, like, you're never to talk to me again." That's maddening to me. He mentions that when Jody came around at first, he finally felt that he was, that Ruby had passion for him and stuff. Um, from the moment Jody came around, Ruby despised, and maybe she always did, those two youngest children. I don't know if it was because they were hyper or what. And that's another thing. So we know that there was 4 kids pretty much that were younger kids. What parents allow this woman into your home, and then she starts having these attacks, which I think she was putting on a show. Do I think those type of attacks exist? I do, but I think she was putting on a show. Oh, Punkette, you're probably right. And I think that like, who allows that to stay in their house? And then Dad not only allows that to stay in their house, but he allows his wife to sleep with this woman to help with the nightmares. Do I think that Ruby and Jody were romantically involved? I 150% do. They had the weirdest, most unhealthy relationship ever. And until he didn't even want to believe what happened to his kids. Listening to the neighbors is horrifying. So we can't say they didn't try. They tried. And the one woman starts crying because social services said to her, "We have to have some sort of, like, somebody has to see that they were hurt." And when they asked him, this woman, "Did you see wounds?" And they said, "Well, no." And she says to this day she regrets saying no. And she should have lied. But yeah, Ava, apparently. And then she just goes to her 17-year-old son. This is what else is wild. She goes to her 17-year-old son and says, "I'm going to need you to get out. We need some separation." 17. You have a couple hours, pack your stuff, you're gone. And then Dad walks in and she kicks him out, which I think she only kicked him out at the time to stay with Chad, but I also think Jody wanted Dad out of the picture for sure because I think Jody was madly in love with Ruby. Says, "Go ahead and leave because we need separation. Don't speak to me or the children." And he does. And blocks his kids, blocks his oldest daughters from texting. Like, that's insane. And then the two youngest, Punkette, you must be right that she couldn't control them. Like, I mean, they tortured those children. The things that were written in those notes in this documentary are out of this world that she put them through. Like, there are so many years of trauma for those children to work through. It's insanity. Like, I cannot even imagine. It was bad enough seeing the wounds on the boy's wrists and um ankles, but the fact that they took cayenne pepper and honey and put that over the wounds, and they used the honey obviously to make the pepper stick and stuff, is horrific. I cannot even fathom how bad that must have hurt. The other thing I noticed too was although the girl was definitely emaciated and had a lot of wounds and stuff, the brothers I think were far worse than the girls, and the I think because Ruby and Jody hated men so much. I can't even, Ava. Like, I can't fathom it. And when you see that image, if you haven't watched this, guys, it's on Hulu. When you see that image of that little, you know what, I got a little teary-eyed is that I was like, "Thank you, Lord," because he was walking away. He rang the doorbell, the 10-year-old boy, and the guy's an older gentleman, so he didn't come right out because he had to get to the door, and you see Ruby's youngest son turn to walk away, and right at the edge of the driveway, the old man opens the door and says, "Yes," and he turns back around, probably seconds from just going back to his house. And then when he turns around, virus threat, okay. When he turns around and you see how emaciated he is, it's insane. Then she has yet to claim the brother. Is that what she said? She claims the essay brother Chad touched other kids, but no one. No, I don't. Yeah. Yes, Ava. Utterly defeated. And then it was like the little boy didn't even want to like put his dad, like to put this gentleman out. And he just said, "Can you do me two favors?" And then the guy at first sounds kind of annoyed, like, oh, yeah, I don't buy that. Like, oh, or what is it? And then he's just like, "Could you take me actually just one, could you just take me to the police station?" I think at that point when he turned around, I think the older gentleman just realized, "Oh my gosh." And then when you hear him break down crying on the phone to the police, is horrible. And his wife, you can see her just pacing and you see him eating a banana. And I'm just like, thank you so much that that couple was home and that they did the right thing. Oh, thank you so much. Because he could have the boy could have gotten scared off, right? Like, I mean, it took so much courage for him to escape in the way he did. Oh, Punkette, I did not know that. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Has anyone read Sherry's book? I really want to get it and read it because yeah, Oh, 100% Puckett. They would have said he escaped and the demons had taken him over and all that stuff. Yeah, he was dead if he went back. And that's why I think it's an absolute miracle that when he got to the edge of the driveway, the gentleman came out. And you can hear just such a compassion and when he turns around, you can hear a compassion in that man's voice, like, and immediately says, "Come here, son, sit down," because he knew, like, I gotta get this boy over here. And I think and to think of how many people that Jody brainwashed is insane. How many marriages did she destroy? How many people still believe her? That's the scary part. There's probably still people that think she's right. Yeah, Punkette. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I gotta get that book. That's insane. And how many rooms she had in that house. Obviously, she was a millionaire thanks to the people that she brainwashed over the years. She has kids that want nothing to do with her. I'd love to know some of their stories. It's probably one of the most atrocious stories I've ever read, and actually what really concerns me is Kevin's lack of his ability to and Kevin's the dad, if you didn't know that. His ability to still say with such confidence, "Yeah, I believed her. Yeah, I still love her. I know she's not good in my life or our life or something like that." But I still don't feel like he's made entirely that break, that he has made that separation of that woman was evil. Exactly, Punkette. That scares me. He hasn't made that disconnect yet. And I really, like I know he's fighting to get custody back of the kids, but to be quite honest, who knows if the kids even want to go back to him because he walked out on them and you don't just get over that. And if you notice, I guess the oldest Sherry ended up befriending a couple, like a teacher of hers or something, and she calls them mom and dad. She does not refer to Kevin as her dad anymore. She calls him Kevin. Really, Punkette. Ruby's sister is continuing the cycle with her own kids. Oh my gosh. I'm also a little bit nervous because Chad makes a living as a social media influencer, and I'm concerned about that because that destroyed his life on so many levels that I'm worried that it will do the same to him. Like because regardless of how bad things got, he still saw the amount of money that it made him and his siblings and his parents. I mean, you saw they had wads of 20 to kids and stuff. Like that is kind of addicting, I'm sure. And he's a good-looking boy. Oh, he did Punkette? That is so good. So he's a realtor now. So he'll probably be, yeah, I mean, he's gonna make money just doing that. That's awesome. And I mean, it's okay to forgive Kevin. Maybe it's just because I'm so mad about the story that I don't necessarily trust him yet. But I think that maybe the kids do want to go. I just don't know about the youngest kids because I think they endured definitely the most physical of it all. Yeah, I think Chad and his dad are on good terms. Um, yeah, Punkette. That's great. You should send me some of your stuff. I wanna talk more about this because people are reading the documentary and I think we all knew she did bad things, but I don't think we all knew that she did this stuff. And I do think dad has blood on his hands. I can't come to terms yet with dad. I just can't. Because it was interesting when the officers were telling when he went to the interview room and they were telling and maybe we just didn't see this part, but they were telling everybody or they were telling him about what had happened and he really didn't even believe them. But I I think as a parent, if I just found out all this was happening, I would have been like, "I wanna see my 2 children. I will not say another thing until I see my 2 children. I just wanna know that they're okay. I just wanna see them." Like, I would have been fanatic about seeing them, but at the same time, he was in a state of shock. He might have said that, and they said, "No, you're not going to see him." Oh, for sure, Punkette. Um, I don't know. It's really wild. It's just it's wild. Yeah, the camp and Jody is just wow, off the charts. And I want to know if and I just wonder is anyone else going to come forward that Jody did this to in the past or that was brainwashed to the point of I mean, are these the first kids she's held and detained? They did say that Kevin was skinny, he was a hermit crab, he didn't come out of his house for that year, but we're talking over a year. He didn't even know how his children were. Really, Punkette. I'm gonna have to go watch some of that. Like, true, Ava. That's true. I mean, Kevin was willing to do anything possible to make because did you hear when he said so when he said Ruby's name popped up and he was just like, "She's calling. She's calling." Like, I part of me's like, did was he even excited that, like, she was like, "Oh, maybe I can find out what's happening to my kids," or was he only excited because of her? I mean, she had a really big hold on him for sure, and I'm just not convinced that that hold is gone. Punkette, how long have you been studying this? You know a lot of stuff. Something definitely happened to Jody to make her I mean, we all know she despises men. And I think she saw that based on the counselor that shadowed her that knew something was wrong, it sounds like she really preyed upon people that had a lot of money, and we know Ruby had a lot of money from her social media days. But, even before Jody, she was pretty psycho. I mean, she removed Chad's bed for 7 months and made him sleep in a beanbag in the basement. Like, I understand, like, I can't even imagine how uncomfortable he was for 7 months. And it's even more maddening that because it was, I guess, just child abuse, all they got was the 30 years because one of them didn't die. I mean, they're gonna get out. They're gonna get out and probably still have, a few years left on their life, and that's just insane to me. Punkette, you gotta send me some things. But yeah, if anybody hasn't watched it yet, please go check that out because that is absolutely nuts. And watch it. We can talk about it more. And I'm interested. That's true, Punkette. I'm interested to know some of the backstory now, like about other family members, that kind of stuff that Punkette's been talking about in chat. But I do have to get back to work, guys. So I appreciate you spending lunch with me, and I will see you guys soon. And we'll probably talk more about this. I want to go deep dive in some of the family dynamics here. All right, bye, guys. Thanks.